halfway through day one of the Winter Championships. It's been great so far. We've got plenty more Hearthstone coming up for you guys, but what have you enjoyed about the morning so far, Soto?
It's been an incredible day, but I think the match that's being set up that we're going to see next is the most exciting thing for me. It's ShtanUdachi versus fr0zen, both victorious in their opening round matchups, and both arguably the strongest representatives representing their particular regions, Europe and North America, respectively. So I cannot wait to see that. I enjoyed both of their matches coming into this enormously, but fr0zen in particular looked for a minute like fr0zen was gonna melt in the Bahamas sun, but he managed to pull it all together, was noticeably out of sorts. As you can see, some of his reactions early on looked like B787 was going to be able to overcome him, but fr0zen pulled it together at the last moment, came back, and then ShtanUdachi, apart from one or two small plays that maybe I disagreed with, put on an absolute clinic against X-Hope, who fought valiantly as well. And then this match, old guard versus new, Dr. J started off, giving it the gestures to the camera, really bigging it up as much as he could, but then suddenly the realization that he was in a real scrap overcame him. Some of the theatrics went away. It came down to just real Hearthstone, and Nyria, one of the most experienced players in the game, was able to overcome.
Yeah, it's been a great morning so far, and we're just going to have a little bit of a breather before we get into the next matches. And we've actually seen a certain class missing from this tournament so far. It's been in the lists, but not really had a chance to see him too much. So to give him a bit of a time in the spotlight for today, we're going to take 5 with Team 5, talking about Garrosh.
Take 5 with Team 5.
Who would play Garrosh in a movie?
What actor should play Garrosh?
I wonder.
Oh, that should be Russell Crowe. Why not?
That's not a valid target.
He's kind of got the bristly voice, and of course they'd add some effect to make it even more menacing.
I love Clancy Brown. You saw him in the old Highlander back in the day in the 80s. The guy is an awesome villain.
My thanks.
Vin Diesel seems like he makes sense. He's got the voice for it, and I hear Vin Diesel loves Warcraft.
Victory or death!
Let's say Sean Connery.
I need a weapon.
You never really know if he's evil or if he's on the good side. I'd be scared of him.
Well played.
Jason Statham.
I must choose.
But it's obvious.
Wow. It's got to be The Rock.
I will crush you.
I mean, like The Rock, right? I think it has to be The Rock.
That minion already attacked.
I mean, you want it to be a little bit kind of lighthearted in a way and get that Hearthstone spin on it, and I guess The Rock maybe could pull that off.
I think that, or me. Rock or me, either one.
I cannot do that.
A lot of great ideas there, and thinking about it myself, I can't think of anyone else better that wasn't really mentioned, other than maybe Ben Brode himself doing a happy version of Garrosh instead. I think that would be kind of funny.
Yeah, actually, I hadn't seen that before, and as I was thinking about it, my idea got stolen straight away. I would have said Vin Diesel, I think, but they seem to be just slowly working their way through the cast of Fast and the Furious as they went along.
Yep, so we can check out the groups and how they have formed up so far today. In the winners section of Group A, we see fr0zen and ShtanUdachi coming up later on, and then in the lower elimination bracket, we have B787 versus his opponent as well. So what do you think of Group B?
Yeah, Group B, Nyria versus Palmblad is going to be the winners clash. Dr. J against Lovely Chuk going on in the lower portion. But again, I've mentioned it before, but that matchup in Group A, just seeing those two names next to each other on the bracket there has got me excited all over again. Potentially one of the highest level games of Hearthstone that you will see all year.
And we're ready to get into it right now. So from Russia, we have a master deck builder himself. It is ShtanUdachi. And from America, one of the most respected players in his region, it is fr0zen.
It's go time! fr0zen versus ShtanUdachi.
My first matchup versus B787, I wasn't really confident in myself after a few games, and it really shouldn't have been this close. I think I didn't play my best.
I will play next versus American player fr0zen. I think it will be more harder than my previous opening.
As for ShtanUdachi, he's probably the best player in the group. He has very good decks.
It's not really advantage for me to play versus him, because his deck's not too good for me.
I think it will be a close match, and whoever plays better will most likely take that series.
fr0zen versus ShtanUdachi. Let's see what you got.
I am feeling the hype, Admirable. We could not have asked for a better winner match for Group A. It's fr0zen versus ShtanUdachi. You know, these guys both are well-respected, not only among their peers, but among much of the communities in their respective regions. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah, both competitors last year were able to make it to last call. Both competitors have been searching for big HCT breakout performances. Both of them here have an opportunity to secure a top 8.
Yeah, both these players they're kind of similar to each other. They haven't really had many appearances in the Hearthstone Championship Tour, but they're both grinders. They both are known for their innovative deck building. They're known for bringing some weird stuff to tournaments, sort of going against the grain, and they both, like you said, made it to the last call last year, but came up a little bit short. ShtanUdachi came in as the 8th seed for last call for Europe. fr0zen came in as the 2nd seed for the Americas. They both had very close to the same amount of Hearthstone Championship Tour points when it comes down to it. So this match, not only does this secure the winner a spot in the quarterfinals, where they'll only need to win one match to qualify for the World Championship, beating a player as good as their opponent from either side will give these guys a huge boost of confidence moving forward, not in just the tournament, but in their Hearthstone careers.
Yeah, I totally agree with that one. These are two of the more respected players out there who are starting to find their success, and that's the big facet of tournament Hearthstone play. When you look at it on the whole, when you consider how long they've been playing, who's been having consistent results, these two players are definitely up there.
So taking a look, I just want to briefly mention the bans. fr0zen banned away ShtanUdachi's Pirate Warrior, which is pretty, even with his strategy. That's what fr0zen's plan was coming into this tournament. That's what he's going to be banning all tournament long. But fr0zen's the only player in the tournament that doesn't have Warrior.
Yeah.
So no Pirate Warrior. That was ShtanUdachi's plan as well, but he was throwing a curveball, goes ahead and bans away the Freeze Mage, which I love that choice because Freeze Mage would be problematic for most of his decks to beat. So right off the bat, we're going to get into game number 1, Priest versus Rogue. We've seen this matchup today. Didn't go so well for the Priest. Can fr0zen mount that pressure that you need against Rogue to really get things going? That's a 6-6 Van Cleef pretty early on.
Yeah, well, that's going to be the big problem for him right away, is that ShtanUdachi has found one of the big win rate cards that's in Rogue. It's Edwin Van Cleef. And now he hasn't gone full all in on the Van Cleef here, and that's because of the position that fr0zen has put him in. He's got some pressure going. Shtan goes all in here, and he runs into Shadow or Death. That's going to be it. So he's reserved some of this pressure back for him. 6-6 should be good enough to fight for board. Rely on the Tomb Pillager and Azure Drake to really get the job done. But the fact that he did make it a little bit smaller means that fr0zen has an opportunity to take advantage of this. fr0zen's got to get on the board. He's got to start getting damage through to Shtan. Shtan has no way to protect his health total with this Rogue deck. It's the 30 points of life he's got, and then it's gone. If fr0zen can keep him under pressure, maybe there's some opportunities for him to take the game.
Yeah, there's a couple cards that can change that just a tiny bit with Swashbucklers. But other than that, yeah, unless that picks up like a Flash Heal.
No natural way.
No natural way, that's correct. But he does have a lot of tools to work with. We've talked about how Rogue can sometimes beat itself with its draws. You need sort of that ideal mix of minions plus those support spells and have enough card draw to back it all up. Right now, ShtanUdachi, he's got just about everything that he could probably want in this matchup. Just needs like a Gadgetzan Auctioneer to bring it all together.
Yeah, the amount of pressure he's under is a bit of concern. His tools aren't matching up very nicely versus what fr0zen's done. It's kind of just been 1, 2, and 3 cost stuff so far. No prime sap target, which is already very difficult to find against Dragon Priest. No Eviscerate in hand to make use of this. No Auctioneer, like you said, to draw cards. He's got a lot of strong ones, but where does he make the most effective use of it? Can he start racing, or does he need to play for value here?
If he uses a sap, he either has to expend a preparation or he has to make a really awkward turn. That 2/8 It's actually not a bad sap target.
It's really not, but that 6/6 also isn't a bad cold blood target.
You'd be hard pressed to find a bad cold blood target, Admiral.
But yeah, I got nothing. That's tough. +4 attack's pretty good.
Ancient Watcher, maybe a bad cold blood target. Brand picked up.
I mean, that's an interesting card for fr0zen. I don't think he has time to necessarily play for brand value in this matchup. You know, he's got to giddy up. I mean, staring down a 10 power Edwin, you know, he's probably got to do something there, but...
I mean, this has got to be a sap.
I'm thinking so. I don't really see a benefit to either of the other drops in hand, but I'm curious how much that's going to influence the way fr0zen plays this, because when he sees the sap and he sees the pirate, he knows that it's unlikely for Shtan to have a way to pull patches out, or unlikely for him to have sap. Maybe he gets a little bit aggressive and could trap him.
Prep Phantom Knives actually allows ShtanUdachi here to clear the board. I was looking for maybe like a Gadget Stand pickup so he can really start making use of these spells. But the fact that he's going to be able to sort of reset with an Azure Drake on board, one of the most problematic cards for Dragon Priest to deal with, it's not bad. I'll take it. Does need to find some additional card draw, but right now it's a good start.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head too. fr0zen's
Thank you.
Got no, fr0zen's got no way to deal with this right now. I don't see where he's easily getting back into this. I think any way you slice it, he's going to be paying somewhat of a price to get back in this game. I mean, Shtan's hand is pretty weak, but one key pickup will change that whole thing. fr0zen looks a lot calmer in this match than he did in the first.
For sure. I mean, he's had a lot of time. I actually talked to both these players backstage right before they went on, and they both seem to be pretty relaxed. I mean, for ShtanUdachi, that's pretty common. He's just a pretty calm guy in general. He's been around the block a few times. He's looking for that breakout performance, but he doesn't, you know, let it affect his play, you know, with the stress levels. But they both seem pretty calm. They were sort of talking about how they actually met. fr0zen said that he and Shtan actually added each other on Hearthstone like a year and a half ago, which is pretty funny because they probably, neither of them knew who the other one was. Because a year and a half ago, both ShtanUdachi and fr0zen were pretty new to the competitive scene. Shtan was sort of renowned, but only among his region as a deck builder, and fr0zen was just starting to, you know, really pick up speed in the competitive scene. So it's kind of cool to see how similar these players are, and sort of how their start came in a very similar fashion. So I like to hear those kinds of stories, because these are two players that I respect the most because of how they came to be. You know, they both are grinders. They work really hard when it comes to Hearthstone. They both play their own style of game and have made it this far by doing just that.
Yeah, I remember when fr0zen came into the scene. It was he was a big combo player back then, and he's still a combo player now. It's always a pleasure to watch. And I wish I would have known Shtan back then. That would have been really cool too. Because honestly, their styles have been very similar pretty much the whole time, ever since I came to know Shtan.
If I were to give advice to upcoming Hearthstone players, just be yourself.
Yeah.
Unless you're a jerk.
Unless you're me.
Then be somebody else.
Well, fr0zen's going to wish that Azure Drake was somebody else. And that Holy Nova will make it somebody else.
That's
pretty savage.
ShtanUdachi realized that his hand was playing in a way that he had to invest a lot into that Azure Drake. And now all of a sudden, most of his draws don't seem that great. Questing Adventurer off the top. I mean, he picks it up automatically because he knows that, I mean, what is he going to do? Wait, he's at 12 health. But fr0zen was able to pick up the sap from the Draconid Operative. So he's got a way to deal with this. He knows that Shtan's only got one card in his hand. And he knows that card is a little bit awkward to play since he's not just throwing it out there now.
Yeah, and one of the big things that's happening here is fr0zen's getting a read on all this, and he knows exactly how he's going to win the game from this point. Hero Power is going to keep him stabilized. Quite literally all fr0zen has to do is just not let this Questing Adventurer get out of hand. That's it.
And with this much power on board, he's got 5, he's got 9 damage, so he's going to put him down to 10. So he doesn't quite have a lethal setup next turn, but a few cards off the top will do it. And an Eviscerate's not going to be enough. ShtanUdachi concedes a pretty quick, a whirlwind of a game for game number 1, but fr0zen takes it. Big win for him in this series with 2 very evenly matched players.
Yeah, more and more often I'm seeing Dragon Priest get into these situations where it's going card for card, piece for piece, and then suddenly Dragon Priest just has the last card in play. You look up and you go, what happened here? And then it's Draken and Operative, you start getting clocked for 5, and it walks away with a win. It has very few ways to actually interact with what Rogue does on its overall game plan. Play a Gatchin Auctioneer, draw a million cards, and then deal you a lot of damage from hand. In that game, we just didn't see Auctioneer, and fr0zen ran away with it. And nothing fancy happened.
Yeah, so fr0zen with a 1-0 lead in the series. Haven't heard much from him. He's a pretty quiet guy. Let's get to know fr0zen just a little bit more.
Well met.
My name is fr0zen. I am from Northville, Michigan, and I am currently 20 years old. I play Hearthstone 9 hours a day. Well, actually the longest stretch was 36 hours. Before I play in a big tournament, I usually eat healthy and sleep well. My favorite food is sushi. The best thing about playing in the HCT is being in the Bahamas.
"36 hours of Hearthstone."
That's a lot.
That is a lot. 9 hours a day is still a lot. You can tell fr0zen, we call him a grinder a lot, and that's for a reason. I've had fr0zen on my friends list for quite a while now, and pretty much whenever I log in, he's playing. We talked to him a little bit over the course of this last week, and he said he's been practicing a ton leading up to this. You know, up to 6 hours a day of dedicated practice. That's not just grinding ladder games. His main practice partner is a player named APX Void from the Americas, who has had a ton of success and a player that's fr0zen really connected to, partially because both of their love of Mage. And he said that leading up to the tournament, he would just call up APX Void. They'd jam out 6 hours of dedicated tournament practice and follow that up with dedicated ladder practice. These guys really want to win.
Yeah, and winning is going to be a little tough for fr0zen in this matchup. Very similar to the Priest versus Rogue matchup that we saw in the previous match. fr0zen's got to find a way to either get aggressive here on his own or handle what ShtanUdachi's doing. So the handling it problem is that his cards just aren't very strong at interacting with what ShtanUdachi's got. He's got a couple removal spells here and there, but for the most part, this is a combo deck that's trying to prey on other slow decks. Easily ramping up its mana, drawing a lot of cards, and then putting together Aviana, Kun, Malagos, and a lot of burn spells to kill in one turn. Now, ShtanUdachi's trying to do something similar, but it typically comes a lot faster, and there are a couple other angles of attack, which is Tomb Pillager with Big Edwin Van Cleef, and he's also got a lot more natural burst damage from hand, so fr0zen's got his work cut out for him in this one.
It's sort of a race. It's whether or not the Druid can make it to those big turns, or if the Rogue can just present too many threats. One thing that Druid struggles with is hard removal. fr0zen has one copy of Mulch in his deck, and he also has a couple of Raven Idols. So those two things can allow him to find hard removal for Edwin Van Cleef, for Questing Adventurers, but it relies on those draws. And if there's an 8-8 Van Cleef on the board, or even like a 6-6 Questing Adventurer, those types of things can be really problematic for Druid unless they have ideal draws. And you mentioned there's multiple plans of attack for the Rogue. While the Druid is sort of has a pretty linear win condition with not many minions in the deck, and you know with a lot of combo pieces filling up the hand, usually that's the only way you win the game. With Rogue, they can just draw a bunch of cards, they can make big threats, they can start, you know, pressuring early and burst you down before you're ready for it. Lots of plans of attacks, and fr0zen's gonna go ahead and ramp up. He realizes, I got a ton of card draw on my deck. I just need to have the mana crystals to be able to utilize it. I've already got many pieces of my combo saved up. So a few more key draws, and I'm in business.
Yeah, time and again, we've seen fr0zen choose the extra mana option with Nourish. A lot of times that was reserved for a draw mechanic in a lot of decks, but fr0zen has shown his willingness to simply ramp and rely on the natural strength of his draws to get through the game. And honestly, Druid is the perfect deck to do that with. It's stuffed with lots of high-end cards because it's trying to beat slower decks. And so while it's trying to just simply ramp through the early game, once you get to a lot of mana, it's generally pretty easy to walk away with some wins. And is he just loading up here?
He is loading up. He's using Aviana and Kun and Ancient of War just to present big threats on this board. He says, the 2 Tomb Pillagers on the board, I don't even have time to wait. I need to go now, hope my opponent doesn't have a way to deal with this board, try and put on some pressure. Rogue doesn't have healing, so eventually if he draws Malagos, those 2 Moonfires with a couple of these minions landing, damage to the face, he could be able to win that way. This is a deviation from the game plan.
Yeah, and I'm not sure this is going to work. I mean, valiant effort. I mean, look how much power and health he's put on the board. But this is Rogue, man. This deck is so good. 2 Pillagers can wipe out this Ancient of War. 2 more coins coming from the Tomb Pillagers. Backstab's going to be there. This turn is going to start with ShtanUdachi drawing 4 cards, killing an Ancient of War, and having 3 mana.
fr0zen is very well known for making very unique plays and being creative. But fr0zen's also pretty self-aware. Let's go and hear from fr0zen on what he thinks his biggest weakness in Hearthstone is.
My biggest weakness is probably the predictability of my lineup in a small field, because I prefer a more control style gameplay, and it's very easy to target that style.
Yeah. Well, wasn't really targeted in this game.
Yep.
This is just sometimes the nature of this matchup. fr0zen staring down an early board position, forced all in, he feels, and ShtanUdachi just able to shred his presence with that. fr0zen, clocks him for 8 here, but full 7 mana with Auctioneer.
But the benefit of being self-aware, knowing your weaknesses, that's one of the reasons why fr0zen makes some, off-the-wall plays like this one, where he sort of deviates from the original game plan and, tells his opponent, I'm not afraid to do crazy things. If his lineup is predictable, but his play is unpredictable, that makes his opponents, really have to think about a lot more things when they're facing up against him.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough turn to look at. I mean, how many players would have simply gone, yeah, it's enough. It's a lot of minions on board. Because the facet of this deck is to combine everything he just did with Malagos and then burn, not just get a bunch of minions on the board. And so when he just gets a bunch of minions on the board, it can get disrupted. He can lose those games. And this spot says, I'll take it. It's tough to play against a player who will openly take big risks when the time calls for it.
It's hard to make reads on him. That's a big thing. But Shan is building up a gigantic board. These 2 bad boys are going to get concealed. Scratch that. These 3 bad boys are going to get concealed. Patch is the ultimate bad boy. And I don't see a way out for fr0zen here.
Does he have another Innervate in the deck? No,
Raven Idol for a minion into Innervate Deathwing.
Yeah, Innervate's not gonna help him get this done. That conceal, hiding ShtanUdachi's entire board.
And there's the concession, and fr0zen gives up game number 2. ShtanUdachi gets the job done with Rogue. fr0zen, I like the risk, but was it the right choice in that situation? He must have had a read on Shtan's hand. He saw the turn before that Shtan basically played that Tomb Pillager right off the top, and he said, well, if he didn't really have too many great plays that turn, and he played that so quickly from his draw that turn, maybe his hand's just really awkward. Maybe he's got a bunch of situational spells. Is that enough of a read for you to say, you know what, go?
I mean, look what happened when he did do it. Imagine if he didn't. It's kind of the way I look at
True,
it.
yeah.
He should have gotten shredded.
Well, he wouldn't have had minions to backstab. Would have had to backstab his own minions for draw.
Oh, no, poor Patches.
Oh, no.
ShtanUdachi just looks cool and calm.
Sottle and Raven said on the analyst desk, they said, this is going to be some of the highest level of Hearthstone you've ever seen. fr0zen thinks sort of on another level than a lot of players. We were talking to him a little bit over the course of the past week, and he was saying, sometimes you need to make bad plays to show your opponent that you're willing to make bad plays. so that they can't predict your playstyle and can't make reads on your hand.
Yeah, he talks a lot about the similarities to making plays that make your opponent perceive that you're doing something other than what you're doing. He's a very proficient poker player. And oftentimes the strategy there is to purposefully do something that looks incorrect to conceal that you will do the correct thing later on. It's supposed to give your opponent a misread. That only works against very sophisticated hand readers. ShtanUdachi is one of those players. It's a very difficult thing to do. When the time calls for it, it can be wonderful. But if you misstep there, it could be lights out. And this is one of those matchups where fr0zen is not going to have an opportunity to make use of an idea like that. This is an aggro shaman build versus his combo druid. ShtanUdachi's deck is not a very subtle build. It's trying to get on the ground and deal a lot of damage very quick to fr0zen. fr0zen has to find a way to disrupt that board position, stabilize, and then clock ShtanUdachi. One of the big problems with that is that Shaman tends to go wide on the board. Almost all of Druid's removal is in single target effects. That means Wrath is taking out half of a Feral Spirit. It means by the time it kills Tunnel Troll, it gets dealt a lot of damage. This is the kind of turn that fr0zen needs to get back into it. ShtanUdachi having just a 1-1.
Yeah, ShtanUdachi, one of the 2 players in the field to bring aggro Shaman to this tournament. And you sort of got to respect that choice when mid-range Shaman, for the longest time, has had a lot of players saying it's the best deck in the game. And he read the, you know, he predicted, I guess, so to speak, the decks that players would bring and said, you know what? I think aggro Shaman is just going to get the job done. If a lot of players bring Druid, if a lot of players bring Rogue, give them less time. Give them less time to ramp. Give them less time to draw. Give them less time to piece together stuff. Now, fr0zen is going to go with a Blood Mage Thalnos plus a swipe here. This does a pretty good job of cleaning up the board, but it doesn't clean up everything, and he floats some mana, so being a little bit inefficient there. Stan is playing at lightning speed.
I don't know if this is nerves or if this is just respect for the other, but I never recommend playing that fast. That's how I threw out my elbow in '86.
Slinging cards a little bit too fast. Words of advice. I know he's sort of always played fast. That's one of the things that, I don't want to say defines him as a player, but it's definitely, you know, a unique characteristic to him. A lot of times players will say, I have to remind myself when I'm in tournaments to slow down, but Shaq kind of embraces it. He's like, you know what? Screw it. If I want to play fast, I'll play fast.
Yeah, we heard fr0zen in his interview after match 1 say that he's trying to get himself in a position where he's practiced enough that making plays is more muscle memory than anything else, that you've been in this situation and you already know what to do. ShtanUdachi's play is very much speaking to that right now, that he's been in these situations, that he's practiced this exactly. He's going to follow through with what he's been dealt.
When you're playing 9 hours a day, I'd hope that it'd become muscle memory at that point. fr0zen picks up a Mulch. Azure Drake, one of the biggest targets in the deck besides the Flame Wreath Faceless. But if you throw that out now, and all of a sudden Flame Wreath Faceless comes down, you're in a whole heap of trouble.
Yeah, I think any way you slice it, if there's another big thing to follow this up, that fr0zen's going to be in a heap of trouble. I don't think he can afford to leave this around right now. He needs to do something to try to force ShtanUdachi's hand. A couple key draws are going to be big here. ShtanUdachi, he's got so many strong plays to keep pressure on. And honestly, this might even just be nearing the end, given how much direct damage he can apply over the course of a couple turns here. But if fr0zen picks up some hot draws, he could easily get back into this. This Nourish is super important for fr0zen right now.
Picks up Swipe. That's going to help him deal with some of the minions on the board. Azure Drake Swipe is an option. So he's got a lot of removal tools next turn. But the question is, does he have enough to stabilize through this pressure?
Well, that Azure Drake Swipe is some good. This board position is about to get wiped away. ShtanUdachi attacks with the Hammer of Twilight too, just to try to get as much minion pressure out as possible. He's already seen Blood Mage swipe. fr0zen would have to have spell power and another swipe to get out of this, and that's exactly what he has.
He's even got a couple of spot removal there with Moonfire and Living Roots to really clean things up. But the one thing about Shtan is he's still got some big draws in his deck. And also another thing to note is Jade Spirit came out of the mulch. And even though this isn't Jade Shaman, it still runs cards that generate Jades. It runs Eye of Blackpaw, it runs 2 Jade Lightnings.
Yeah,
that could be a weird factor in this game where mulch might help him out a little bit. Jade Claws as well, there's a ton.
It's just, that's the nature of the way the Shaman decks win. You know, free minions on good cards is a pretty good deal.
I have become Jade Shaman. I have embraced it.
And fr0zen going to choose to clear out the entire board here, and I think this is wise. Anytime that he can shut ShtanUdachi's little tiny damage cards from suddenly clearing out this Azure Drake, it means that he can buy value from it. He can be the one controlling things. But Sir Finley Murgleton has joined the hand at this point. There are some big hero powers here for ShtanUdachi. I'm thinking Steady Shot, thinking maybe even Life Tap.
Life Tap will allow him to get those resources.
You know, how valuable are the totems right now when he's got Flame Tongue Totem in his hand, though? Is he ever even going to find a way to get that card online again this game? Unless he Lava Bursts this Azure Drake, I'm not entirely sure.
That's a Life Tap.
Yeah. Armor Up's not getting taken. It obviously means nothing to him at the moment. He's in the business of paying life for extra cards.
Yeah, he's seen a lot of those spells that are usually coupled with Malagos later on in the game, so he's not afraid to die, and this deck is not minion heavy whatsoever.
Yeah, fr0zen would have loved to get some big stuff online this turn, but he's going to have to draw.
Did somebody say big stuff?
That's some big stuff. That's just a big old 5-10 taunt. ShtanUdachi, this is looking grim for him.
Now, fr0zen has seen one Flame Tongue Totem, but will he respect it enough to use Living Roots plus this Azure Drake attack to clear things off the board? I think Spell Power is too threatening to leave up from the Blood Mage. But he doesn't respect the Flame Tongue Totem. Now, how big of a deal is it going to be? Could be a big deal. It's an extra 3 damage that Shtan has available to him this turn to get through that Ancient of War. And he's still got a ton of damage in his hand.
One of the problems is the counter attack as well. You know, say he chooses to use Hammer of Twilight to get through this Ancient of War. Well, it doesn't really matter at that point then, because he's not actually getting through any combat damage. So there's not much use to that. If he takes that 5 damage to get through, then suddenly fr0zen can just start attacking right back. He's got to use Jade Lightning, which can limit the amount of pressure he can deliver to face over 2 turns. Hammer of Twilight would have freed up an extra swing with it. He finds himself in this position instead.
This game got a lot closer than I expected it to be after that start.
Wow, even though the damage up.
Yeah, and even though Shtan has a ton of burn in his hand, does he have the mana to be able to use it all before he just dies from the backswing? He doesn't have the option of going for too many more life taps. He gave up Totemic Call, so no Stoneclaw Totems to sort of block some damage. fr0zen has 9, 14 damage on board. 3 damage from Living Room, 17.
Threatening lethal.
He is.
On the following turn. And ShtanUdachi has a chance to deliver lethal over 2 turns. But if he splits this damage up, I'm not quite sure how it pans out. He's got overall 8 from 2 turns with Hammer Twilight, 4 from Jade Lightning, that'd be 12, 5 from Lava Burst, 17, 18, 9. He can deliver 19 damage. 20-21 with his 2-2 over those turns, but he's got to take care of some damage on board or fr0zen just kills him.
He's actually seen a lot of spells from fr0zen, damage spells. He's seen both swipes. He's seen Living Roots. He's seen Moonfire. Can he put fr0zen on having lethal damage from hand? And the answer from Shtan is, yeah, he needs to get rid of that spell power. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 damage. I don't think it's possible.
Well, hero power won't save fr0zen alone.
What's the draw? Raven Idol. If he can pick up some life gain, is there any potential outs through lethal Savage Roar?
Starfire and Dome him.
Starfall. Can he nourish?
He's got to find something to find extra life right now. And he may not know that because, honestly, it's probably just not even the best play to strictly look for extra life at this point. He's got to adapt to the circumstance. Just that given the hand of ShtanUdachi, if fr0zen can't get outside of range or find a taunt to get in the way, he's dead.
He's looking for Feral Rage. Finds Malagos.
If he'd have drawn Malagos at the start of that turn, that would have been enough, though.
And I think there's no way out for fr0zen. Even if he hero powers Azure Drake plus Lava Burst for 6 and the Hammer of Twilight
That's going to do it.
We'll win in the game.
And this is what the aggro decks are designed to do. Use as much mana as possible, use all of your cards, take your opponent to exactly 0. fr0zen trying his best, but wasn't there today. ShtanUdachi is going to take a 2-1 lead. So many players in the tournament shied away from Shaman. Many of them went towards the mid-range builds. He showed up here and said, you know what? I need to kill him as quickly as possible. Post turn 10 gets the job done.
And it wasn't that quick, but he got the job done. Second Lava Burst for good measure. And ShtanUdachi takes a 2-1 lead in the series with a win with the aggro shaman.
Yep, and now the Druid for fr0zen is 0-2 in this series so far. We saw him do work with it in his first set, but even there, struggled in some of the games. This seems to be a weaker link of his lineup thus far.
He does have some good matchups lined up in the rest of the series, though, with Reno decks being the 2 remaining for Shtan. So that's one of the decks that, or one of the archetypes, I guess, that fr0zen's Druid does incredibly against. Just because they give him a lot of time, he's looking towards a 1-turn kill. All those things lead up to fr0zen being favored in the upcoming matches. And we saw fr0zen early on in the day against B787. He fell down pretty early in the series, and it was looking pretty shaky, and he was able to bring it back. There's no Reno Priest from ShtanUdachi like B787 had. But definitely, I say that fr0zen is not by any means out of this series.
Oh, of course not. And I talked to him a little bit about his lineup prior to coming into this when we were at Trinity. And one of the things he mentioned was he thought players are going to be showing up with Reno Warlock in droves. And there, you can see Pavel.
Yeah, he's waiting. World champion Pavel waiting for his matches tomorrow. And there's Doc Pone as well, one of the newcomers to the America scene from Montreal in Canada. He's prepping. He's ready.
Yeah, he'll be ready tomorrow as well. C&D groups on deck tomorrow. Man, I can't wait to see those games.
Yeah, but right now we have a quarterfinal spot on the line. Whoever wins this match, this is the winner match for Group A, will get that spot in the quarterfinals, which moves them 1 match away from making it to the World Championship. And a lot of players have set their eyes on that goal specifically.
Yeah, fr0zen, one of them.
He's looking for that breakout performance. fr0zen
for titles.
Yeah,
for glory.
Well, it's going to be Rogue versus Warlock. The Reno Warlock from ShtanUdachi.
Yeah, and this matchup a little bit weird for Shtan, where he really wants to get something like Mountain Giant or Twilight Drake on the board really quickly and start hammering away, but it's tough to play those cards. Oftentimes he's going to have to pay attention to the early game, and then oftentimes he's going to have to pay attention to a Tomb Pillager or a Questing Adventurer. If something like that hits the board and fr0zen has one big piece of disruption, that can be enough to single-handedly dismantle ShtanUdachi's attack and launch the counter-assault of his own. Here, ShtanUdachi's got Shadow Bolt. That's super important to take care of Tomb Pillager. He's got Mountain Giant, curious when it's going to hit. And this is the kind of play that fr0zen can make and really throw off ShtanUdachi's turn.
He loves this play, man. He'll throw out a turn 3 questing like the majority of the time. We saw him do it earlier on in his series against B787. And against Reno decks, the thing that he's looking for is disruption. And now ShtanUdachi's Mountain Giant is delayed a turn. This gives fr0zen more opportunities, more mana to work with to be able to deal with that Mountain Giant.
Oh my. That's a really interesting draw.
So we've got 7 mana to work with. He does have the potential to Blood Mage, Eviscerate, Fan of Knives, and a Dagger hit to kill off this Mountain Giant and preserve his Tomb Pillager.
Yep.
But he's going to save that Eviscerate, realize that's a lot of resources to use to deal with it. Not worth trying to hold on to this Tomb Pillager body.
I mean, look at what just happened there. fr0zen decided he'd rather use his own face and take 8 damage to hang on to Eviscerate, then he would just eviscerate the Giant. It unlocks two things. Number one, he gets to draw cards with the Phantom Knives. Number two, he can use that 4 damage directly at ShtanUdachi later on. fr0zen doesn't care about his own health total as much. There's a small window of opportunity where ShtanUdachi can either become the aggressor or use his own burst damage to take fr0zen out. He's turning that excess health into a resource in this manner and saying, sure, I'll take 8. It means I get to deal you 4 pretty soon.
Or later on. Either way, 4 damage is coming, Shtan. Look out. You know what, Admirable? Potentially 5.
Yeah. Thanks, Azure Drake.
ShtanUdachi going with the Doomsayer here just to interrupt the turn from fr0zen.
He's not falling for it.
Yeah.
Well, I could just pass, or I could draw a lot of cards, return your Doomsayer to your hand, and hide my Auctioneer from the spells you can play.
Seems pretty good to me.
You can also now kill the Earthring Farseer if you'd like. This is just insane. I'm not going to lie, Tej. This is a pretty good deal.
Some may call it the best deals anywhere. And Shtan does not really have great ways to deal with a stealth Auctioneer. Doesn't have mana to play a 5-cost potion this turn to try and deal with it, but those 5-cost... What? I didn't even see the options, man.
That's all you need to see.
All right, deal 4 damage, gain 7 armor. That's why he picked it so fast. Admiral, that's the juice. Unfortunately, 4 damage usually isn't enough to deal with a questing adventurer.
Yeah, this is going to be a bit of trouble here. The second conceal, you know, it's always something you got to worry about, but
yeah.
So he is killing the board here, right?
Yeah, he's killing the board, and he's trying to set up a board that's very twisting netherable.
And then just reset up a board.
And then just reset up a board the following turn.
I don't know. I think I would have liked to see him backstab there.
If he backstabbed, it would have made his... fr0zen winced when that Kazakus potion hit his board. He felt physical pain.
It's pretty bad for him.
Yeah, he was hoping that he was going to draw out another there. But it didn't happen. I mean, he's still got a ton of cards, a ton of minions left.
The problem is
and a lot of damage.
Shtan's got a ton of life. He's at 32 right now after everything we've seen. fr0zen's at 16. Like, ShtanUdachi's getting pretty close to killing him. He's got Leroy and Power Overwhelming. That's 10 alone. He's got 3 more from Hellfire, 3 more from Abyssal Enforcer. If he can just not die,
wait, he can
and live for a turn, he just wins.
Yeah, he can set up that 2-turn lethal just by Abyssal Enforcer. I don't think he's going to die.
I don't think he's going to die either. I think he wins.
Yeah, Abyssal Enforcer just brings fr0zen down to 13. Hellfire, Leroy, Power Overwhelming would be a kill next turn.
Now, the problem is he can't kill this Azure Drake. So does he ever die from 29 here because he left this Azure Drake alone?
No.
Well, we're going to find out because he's got lethal next turn.
There's nothing. fr0zen doesn't have a way to... He doesn't have a Gadget Auctioneer on board, so he doesn't have a way to generate cards from the burn spells that he's playing. And fr0zen understands that 13 is in the range of ShtanUdachi, especially with how many cards he's drawn, despite not having played Emperor Thorsan. But at this stage, that can't even, cross your mind. Your goal is to set up lethal as quick as you possibly can, regardless of what your opponent's doing. He knows that he probably has to deal with this Abyssal Enforcer in some capacity, because 7 is much more in the range.
Not backstabbing on that one turn meant the Kazakus potion was just nuts. He could have used backstab and kept that questing adventurer outside of the range of 4 damage Kazakus potion. That didn't happen, and then he didn't have follow-up damage. Now it's led to this position, and that 8 life that fr0zen paid, well, now it's paying ShtanUdachi dividends.
That's what happens when you don't respect the juice.
My thoughts exactly.
fr0zen's going to learn a valuable lesson in this match. as ShtanUdachi is going to go through the motions. Dirty Rat, who cares? Because we got chicken.
That's right, brother. 13 to face, 3-1 lead for ShtanUdachi. 1 game away from top 8.
Now, ShtanUdachi's last deck is that mage. It's the Reno Mage. Not a lot of players decided to bring Reno Mage to this tournament. Only 5 out of the 16, 31% of the field brought the deck. ShtanUdachi, it's one of his favorite decks. He loves it because even if it may still be a meta deck, it's one of the meta decks that you can be the most creative with. It's one of the decks where the tech choices that you decide on differ sometimes pretty wildly from player to player. And Shtan can really like show his creativity and his deck building skills to match each individual meta with this deck.
Yeah, to me, there's something really important here to look at too, and it's that very clearly fr0zen's lineup is meant to be strong versus a deck like Reno Mage. It's crazy to think about how strong it is.
Yeah, and here you can see the beautiful Bahamas. We're here at the Malia Nassau Beach Resort in the Bahamas. A lot of these players getting some sun. You can see some of them are a bit red from spending a little bit too much time out there, but I've been enjoying it, and I know you have too, Admirable. You can even see the Bahamas through the window behind the players.
That's right.
We're that close to the beach. There it is. It's right outside. We're pretty high up, as you can tell.
39th floor, Hearthstone. It's not quite that high up.
Yeah. Yeah, but one thing is to note is we can take a look from game number 3. This was the play you were talking about, Admirable.
So he draws his card, he picks up Backstab, and then he just instantly acts. If he backstabs this Kazakus here, that questing goes to 5-5. Then there's no option for it to die unless ShtanUdachi wants to use extra cards. So Kazakus Potion would hit, and then he'd have to expend Shadow Bolt.
Look at this wince from fr0zen. Ooh!
That's big.
Is that a oh man, I didn't think of that wince? Or is that a, I knew that was coming wince, and I should have played around it wince?
I think at the end of the day, perhaps inconsequential. Shadow Bolt in ShtanUdachi's hand helps take care of the pressure. However, that makes him expend another card. It makes him have it. It's a percentage play that you have to look at. That's the way all of these guys approach the game. It's not about this time. It's about what happens usually. There's no answer. He's got it.
All right, well, let's get into it. Match point for ShtanUdachi. Is he going to be the first player to move on to the quarterfinals? Game number 5 is Reno Mage versus Rogue. fr0zen's got the decks to beat this Reno Mage. All of his remaining decks have even or better matchups against this deck. Can he pull another comeback out of his bag of tricks?
I definitely think he can. This is a fairly strong matchup for him to start, but ShtanUdachi's already picked up a lot of key cards for this matchup. The two that stick out to me like a sore thumb are Polymorph and Kazakus. As fr0zen wants to get Tomb Pillager, Azure Drake, those sorts of minions online to start delivering damage, ShtanUdachi's goal is simply to shut that down, be at a stable life total, land a Burgly Bully to disrupt some more, and then use all that endgame mana to just power out big burn spells, big threats, big board clears. Archmage Antonidas, a big way to pick up value and continue to make that happen, and Kazakus, of course, producing potentially an AoE spell. For fr0zen, it's simply about getting one of these minions to stick to the board and deliver damage turn after turn. High pressure situations with all-in Auctioneers or with Questing Adventurers can keep ShtanUdachi on the back foot, but it's tough. It's very dependent on the pan out early on.
If you're going to have a Reno deck, a Reno Mage deck, to go up against Rogue, ShtanUdachi's, I think, is one of the best. It's kind of a no-nonsense list. It is a burn version. It runs a little bit more cycle. Novice Engineer, Loot Hoarder, plus the Pyroblast. So you have a lot of options later on in the game to draw a lot through your deck, Alexstrasza, and follow that up with Inkmaster Salia, Pyroblast, Frostbolt, Ice Lance. It may seem like a lot, but those possibilities are realistic. It's one of the reasons why that combo was put into this type of Reno Mage deck, was to capitalize on some of these closer, I'll call it a control matchup. We know Rogue is a control, but it can be a win condition against the Rogue.
I can't believe how fast these guys have been playing. It's just nuts.
fr0zen just throwing out Lyra. That's how much he respects the Burgley Bully. He realizes, I need to give up one of my win conditions to deal with a card that could possibly lose me the game. If he gives Shtan enough coins, that could give him the tempo that he needs, that could give him the burn that he needs from Archmage Antonidas. It's a very threatening card. A great choice by ShtanUdachi, especially in this meta. It's a little bit slower, and he gets rewarded for it.
Wow. And the Doomsayer gets picked up here alongside the Icelands that ShtanUdachi had in hand. The pace is just blistering. I can't believe that they're playing this fast.
One thing that ShtanUdachi did mention to us is sometimes when he plays fast, it forces his opponent to subconsciously match that pace. If ShtanUdachi is used to playing fast, and just by playing fast sort of encourages his opponent, even unintentionally, to start playing fast as well, he has the advantage in that type of matchup because he's the one that does it all the time, and his opponent may not be used to that pace of play.
Well, fr0zen making some pretty good use out of Phantom Knives and this extra Deadly Poison here. But that's right into a tempo play from Shtan himself. And what a tempo play. That is a sick drop off the Firelands
White
portal.
Eyes.
5/5 taunt, Death Rattle at a 10/10 taunt to your deck.
For 5 mana.
Yeah.
White Eyes does not see much play in Shaman decks, but when you get it accidentally, it's pretty good. And he's just going to keep playing. He's like, I want a 10/10 in my deck.
Yeah, me too. That sounds sweet.
And fr0zen, he's looking a little bit more nervous now that this game, the series looks like it's starting to slip away. ShtanUdachi can smell the quarterfinals. It looks like he has a lead in the series if he can find a way to deal with this board. And if he wins this game, he wins the match and moves on as the first player through to the quarterfinals.
It's a pretty big board he's facing down, though.
Storm Guardian?
But boy, does he have the stuff to deal with it.
That Kazakus potion.
ShtanUdachi can just take his time. Oftentimes in this matchup, fr0zen can keep a lot of heat on ShtanUdachi, and that back foot puts him in awkward positions. There's been no Auctioneer. There was no early Edwin. There was no opportunity to conceal. There was no questing adventurer. It was just big minions and answers from Shtan.
fr0zen's hand. Oh, man.
He can't touch the brand.
He needs a Gadgetzan Auctioneer stat. ShtanUdachi, he's actually been spending a lot of time with Pavel over the past couple of days. Has it rubbed off on him?
Oh, my.
That's a Pyroblast. Ice
Yeah.
Lance, maybe not so much.
Still pretty good.
I'd say so.
At this stage, if he just stops what fr0zen's doing, he's got it. And he has more than enough tools to stop what fr0zen's doing at this point.
Yeah, one of the ways you can beat Rogue in this matchup is just by killing all their stuff.
Yeah.
Force them to have minion after minion after minion. Reno Mage is one of the best decks at just removing minions.
At this point, Shtan is considering trading in this brand because he has nothing left
He's going to
that
go
it works with.
Oh, come on. Hit him in the face. Damage does matter. I mean, he's got a Pyroblast in his hand. He's got a Pyroblast in his deck.
I like it. Yeah, why not?
Put him to 20 with 2 Pyroblasts. You just mathematically win. That's a Barnes. Barnes needs a Gadgetzan Auctioneer.
Not quite.
Bloodmage Thalnos is not the worst because Bloodmage Thalnos will still allow him to draw a little bit deeper in his deck. But boy, is he behind. And Shtan is being so patient with this Kazakus potion.
This lead is not going anywhere really either. This is bad news. When your opponent just 10 mana Pyroblast you and then attacks you for 2 with their brand, 7 damage closes the game. How does fr0zen win from here?
Yeah, ShtanUdachi also has an Ice Block up, so if he picks up a spell that he can use with Archmage Antonidas, he all but locks up the game.
Well, the trick is he does have to pick up a spell to use with Antonidas.
But he's got multiple turns.
This is a big all-in from fr0zen. Shtan, he's at the mercy of his own draws right now. So many cards in his deck will help him get the win in 2 turns.
fr0zen's popping the block next turn. What's the draw going to be? Pyroblast off the top, and that's ShtanUdachi, the first player to move on to the quarterfinals. He is 1 match win away from making it to the World Championship. A blistering pace throughout that game and throughout that series. And at the end of it all, ShtanUdachi stands as the winner.
I don't think I've seen a match played quite this fast in a very long time.
It's been a while.
There's a lot at stake this weekend.
Yeah.
Opportunities for the World Championship. $250,000 are at stake. Glory is at stake here. That's the pace they're playing at.
Yeah,
Unreal.
Wins Group A, a tough group from him with fr0zen in that group. X-Hope, one of the top players from China. V787 with that control lineup, sort of a wild card. But ShtanUdachi is on top of it all. fr0zen's going to have to fight his way through the decider match in this Group A. But let's go ahead and send it over to Rachel for some words with our winner.
Thank you so much, guys. ShtanUdachi, you are in the quarterfinals. You are our first player to make it there, and that's got to be a huge relief, right?
Да, это отличная просто победа, но нужно еще одну, чтобы пройти на BlizzCon. Это то, зачем я сюда приехал, соответственно. Еще рано радоваться, но уже неплохо.
Yes, that was a great victory. That's one more step closer to getting to BlizzCon. It's a little early to celebrate fully, but I'm really glad it happened.
One step closer to BlizzCon, but I did want to ask you, you have a day off now. Do you spend it preparing? Do you spend it relaxing? How are you going to combine the two now that you're here in the Bahamas in such a lovely location, but with so much on the line?
Конечно же, надо подготовиться будет к следующему оппоненту, потому что я готовился наиболее к своей группе и не то чтобы к остальным группам сильно подготовлен, поэтому этот день я потрачу для того, чтобы подготовиться, собственно, к моему будущему противнику, и после этого уже буду отдыхать.
Yes, of course, I'll need to prepare. I was mostly preparing for opponents in my own group, so now I'm out of it. I'll need to study the opponents, my next opponents, and be prepared for it.
All right, well, hopefully you can do that on the beach. You can find yourself a nice spot to relax. But in the meantime, I'm going to give it back to the casters. Guys, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he really does need to do some prep. We are one step closer to having an all-Europe sweep. Nairea's already waiting in the winner's match for Group B as well. Keep in mind, everybody, that the way the groups work, it's possible to have 4 players from a single region go through to the World Championship. There's so much bragging rights on the line for each individual region.
And that's the beauty of the international play that we have now here at the Winter Championship. We used to have to wait all year long in order to get it in Blizzard play, but now every single season we're going to be seeing it, and so far Europe is looking mighty good.
And we're a little past the halfway point, but with ShtanUdachi's win, he becomes the first player to move on to the quarterfinals. Here's a little bit of a recap of that match. We know it was fast, but at the end of it all, fr0zen is going to be the one fighting its way back through the match. We have plenty more Hearthstone coming at you. Don't go anywhere.
From the Bahamas,